The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion is a relatively maligned game, and this is not entirely without reason.
May you rest in peace.
However, with our rising acceptance, if not love, of the janky, the Scuffed,
How are you?
I've been better.
I care little. Take care.
and the decidedly unhinged, Oblivion truly has found its level and a permanent place in the records of absolutely cinema video games. And with a possible remaster on its way, for some reason, when Arena is right there, now is the time to dive into the world of the Elder Scrolls. Released in 2006 by beloved game studio Bethesda, Oblivion is an action RPG distinguishing itself with its high level of modability, a massive reason for the success of many Bethesda titles and indeed many other IPs. But in the interest of exploring and presenting a game I hold in very high esteem, this will be from the perspective of a mostly unmodded playthrough with only the most necessary installed. Being an enjoyer of immersive gaming, my footage will of course be presented in the first-person view, which does have the unfortunate side effect of you not being able to see the visual evolution of your character, but the fortunate boon, on the other hand, of not catching too many glimpses of the alcohol fetal syndrome character the Oblivion character creator spits out for you. Following in the footsteps of Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, you are a prisoner of no repute and set a backstory. As with all Elder Scrolls games except Daggerfall, glorious, magnificent, beautiful Daggerfall, you are free to pick any of the 10 recurring playable races of Nirn, all which have their own strengths and weaknesses. Be aware that Oblivion also has gendered attribute modifiers, although they are slight in difference. I won't go through the races, but I will be playing a Lady Breton for the benefit of their superior intellect, innate resistance to magic and other dangers of the occult, as well as the superior lore. In Oblivion, we find ourselves in the province of Cyrodiil, the imperial capital of Tamriel, inspired by the great visuals of generic medieval fantasy and Italy. We are at the end of the third era of Tamriel, begun by Emperor Tiber Septim, unifying all the provinces in a massive continent-spanning war, ignited by a special military border conflict and emboldened by mountain-dwelling throat goats, proclaiming random birth certificate question-dodging Bretons to be the preordained rulers of the world. Understand, the lore of the Elder Scrolls is beyond esoteric and must only be consumed in small doses for your own safety. Waking up in your cell in the Imperial City prison, you must immediately back away at a respectful distance from your bed, observing the ancient traditions of the proud Breton. There, you are quickly negged by the inhabitant of a nearby cell, a Dunmer, engaging in his favorite pastime of vitriolic outbursts against the so-called lesser races. Ignore his xenophobic, skooma-addled ramblings and await your fate in the dark, dingy cell. Soon, the very Emperor of Tamriel, Uriel Septim VII of the Enterprise, arrives at your cell, fleeing an assassination attempt. Recognizing you as his sleep paralysis demon, he subsequently pardons you of all your crimes and allows you to follow through a secret escape hatch in your cell. Meeting the trio later on, you must speak with the Emperor, who allows you to explore your birth sign. For a mage of our soon-to-be caliber, 3 in particular are outstanding choices, with the Atronach being a particularly good choice if you are an immunocompromised high elf and willing to carry a pharmacy's worth of magical potions with you, but discretion is the better part of valor, and we will move forward with the mage birth sign. Soon, the Emperor's reign comes to a pointy end, and with almost all his sons assassinated, the Septim bloodline as well, unless you take the Amulet of Kings to the Waynon Priory. Why is the amulet important? Allegedly, only a true heir of the Dragonblood can wear it, thus relighting the dragonfires now dormant in the Imperial capital. The dragonfires maintain the liminal barrier between Oblivion bad and Nirn occasionally bad, and without the amulet, our world is in apocalyptic danger.
Close shut the marble jaws.
of Oblivion.
We are left with this cryptic plea, and it is high time for creating your class. Oblivion provides you with some decent to classes, and you can create your own abomination of a class as well if you so desire. We will choose the basic mage class to keep it simple and get moving along through the sewers. Now the lush world of Cyrodiil lies before your feet, and here comes the first landmark question any Elder Scrolls player must ask themselves. Main quest or guild side quests? Since the introduction of the excellent side quests of Morrowind, such as the choice between the great houses of Redoran, Telvanni or Lalu, the Elder Scrolls games, besides their huge open world, have made themselves distinct with some of the most excellent side quests in RPGs. In a perfect world, you would probably jump between the various guilds while pursuing the main quest, but this is not a perfect world. For most of us, I'd imagine the same mindset goes. If I start the quest line, I am finishing the quest line. This is the beauty of Elder Scrolls games, as the Archmage of Skyrim finds themselves doing a fetch quest to be admitted into the Bard College of High Unemployment Rate. For your own playthrough, nothing is really wrong with whatever path you choose, but conversely, nothing is really right either, such is the way of Elder Scrolls. Here, however, you will play the side quests first, and you will be happy. First, you make your way to the market district of the Imperial City and find this temporarily unhoused individual. Sneak your way to the corner and tap into the Kim for the next several hours of real time and several days of game time. Perhaps a bit of hist sap is in order. Soon you will find yourself at an appropriate level of sneak. This will be very useful in all your endeavors. Remember, fellas, it's not cheating if the console never comes up. Then, fast travel to any of the other major cities surrounding the Imperial City, except for Kvatch, and find your local branch of the Mages Guild. Join and become a Mage Associate. I will be honest, the Mages Guild is definitely at the bottom of the guild quest lines, but we need a particular apparatus from the Imperial University, accessible only by getting a recommendation from each city's guild head, and it feels wrong to play a magic user and not endeavor to become the Archmage. Remember to fill your pockets legally with all the fringe benefits of being a member of the guild, and consider picking up some spell upgrades, although the weak fireball spell you learn in the Skingrad quest is pretty much the best bang for your magicka buck you will get in the early game. Finish each quest and travel to the university, where you will receive a new dress and a quest to create your own Warner Bros. Entertainment Wizarding World wand staff, which will quickly find its way into your inventory, never to be seen again. Unfortunately, it seems that a cabal of politically motivated necromancers have decided to strike back against their oppressors. While necromancy is still a legal but frowned upon practice in Cyrodiil, the new Archmage Hannibal Traven decreed a total ban on its practice within the Mages Guild at his ascension due to necromancy's corrupting nature, as inspired by the guild's ancient progenitor organization, the Sigic Order. A minor political win for our new and fellow Breton headmaster Traven, given the relative small number of official necromancers, but with the proverbial village having rejected them. These well-trained spellcasters would soon turn to a much darker master, promising exactly the warmth they seek. Before diving deeper into the office politics of the Imperial University, head to the Praxographical Center and create a new spell. Here you can use the baseline from the spells you already know to create spells with new configurations to your heart's desire. We will create a weak element weakness touch self spell with a fitting name. To level a spell school, you must use a spell from that particular school on an appropriate target. And since we ourselves happen to be a target, you now have a practically free and convenient way to train destruction as you travel across the land. As a quick aside, we are barely out of the intro and have already somewhat engaged in 2 separate separate exploits and ignored several others. If you are a first-time player, resist these dark urges and play at your own speed. Although idly jumping around and casting spells on yourself is pretty much par for the course for even your average Tesla-pilled Oblivion head. The sneak into a wall for several hours technique though, just don't bring it up at a dinner table. In truth, the leveling system of Oblivion is not entirely credible. On the surface, it makes sense that the skills you use are also the skills that level, but the problem is that logically, you would of course major all the skills that you intend to use for your character, which invariably would make you level up way too fast since you spam all your major skills, which would also lead to inefficient stat gain since stats are tied to how many times you've leveled a particular skill, which would end with you as a gimped level 21 Master Kenyan Alchemist door-to-door salesman with a miniature health pool and 0 good items, facing down an equally leveled bandit fully iced out in Daedra or glass armor because a genius at Bethesda felt it was more immersive for the enemies to scale with your level. As such, there is an actual benefit in majoring skills that you don't use that often while spamming your minor skills to increase stat gain and to keep the game world level low. We won't be engaging in true efficient leveling, but we will occasionally be running around with a level ready to go while increasing some minor skills tied to speed or endurance through either spam or training. Back at the university, your study time quickly turns into field work as you rise through the ranks of the Imperial Majory. The Necromancers soon make a brazen strike at the guild as the Bruma charter is destroyed and all but one cat butchered. Manimako, the king or god of worms, has returned and gathered all the cancelled necromancers to his side to destroy Archmage Traven and his woke political biases. Manimako being back is a big deal, so Archmage Traven's 2 most trusted advisors decide to go rogue and steal some of Manimako's artifacts. One seeking answers in his hat, who seemingly gets cut down by his own Daedric summon, and the other who turns traitor, intending to return a very powerful necromancy item to Manimako. The seriousness of our predicament breathing down Traven's neck, he sends us on our penultimate quest to retrieve a massive black soulstone from the former Chadenhall guild leader turned traitor as well. Successfully retrieving the soulstone, Traven hands us the mantle of the Archmage and sacrifices himself to prevent Manimako from being able to take control of our soul. With all this in mind, the lore of Manimako, the ease of which he destroys guilds, turns high-ranking officials traitor, and requires the sacrifice of ostensibly the most powerful mage in Cyrodiil, our expectations are set high, but be prepared for disappointment. Manimako is just yet another high elf necromancer with a receding hairline, wearing the same robes as everyone else. Dispose of him, or let your summon dispose of him, and return to the university where you are proclaimed the Archmage. Yay. As the Archmage, you can now freely recruit student loan indentured apprentices, or freely utilize the magical chest in your new apartment to legally duplicate hemp plants. In truth, getting access to the spellcrafting table was the most valuable part of this, and the questline overall is quite weak. A shame that Bethesda didn't explore the internal troubles of the Mages Guild further. The idea of a newly appointed Archmage unintentionally causing massive political disorganization with a blanket magic school ban could have been quite interesting, and if nothing else, Manimako himself should have been more than a molding high elf in a damp cave. Onwards to the people's second favorite guild and a personal evergreen. Notice all these wanted posters around the Imperial City? Asking around, it seems that the Imperial Guard are working overtime to bring justice to the thief known as the Grey Fox. Following Following the not-so-subtle clues about the waterfront and the beggar's stare, we must either offer financial incentive for the information we need, or take matters into our own magical hands. Getting the information we want, we find Armand Kristoff, a doyen of the Thieves Guild led by the mysterious Grey Fox, and are given a challenge alongside other hopefuls to earn our membership. The method laid out in the challenge will be your standard operating procedure for the rest of the quest line. Get your mark, find the nearest beggar to your mark, offer the beggar a magical GABA receptor agonist to save 5 septims and receive the information you need. Employing an accelerated format of trickle-down economics, we win the challenge and join the guild, but before we are allowed some special thievery operations, we must prove ourselves by fencing stolen goods to a narcoleptic Nord in Bruma. May I recommend the Market District's Red Diamond Jewelry, providing such a challenge as 2 locked average strength doors. The way security works in Oblivion is a minigame. Your resources are the relatively pricey lockpicks, and depending on the strength of the lock, you face between 1 and 5 tumblers per door or chest. We, however, have proven our mastery of alteration by incessantly spamming the same 8 magicka beginner spell while picking flowers in the countryside, and instead skip the minigame by the way of sorcery. Stealth or sneak works by slav squatting and paying careful attention to the eye. Is it dim? Your illicit activities are going unnoticed. Eye starting to light up? Be prepared for the long arm of the law.
Stop! You violated the law!
Sleeping marks are easy marks, however, and rinsing the jewelry store should take you well above the gold-fenced threshold needed for the next couple of actual Thieves Guild quests. The special quests seem rather innocuous at first. Steal some tax papers and social security numbers, steal a bus.
Can you tell me where Armand Kristoff is hiding? Can you tell me where Armand Kristoff is hiding? Can you tell me where Armand Kristoff? Can you tell me where Armand Kristoff is hiding?
It seems that your joining of a guild has signaled a massive turmoil. As a half-dozen Wes Johnsons mill about the waterfront, it is revealed that there is a rat among us. The bust heist was a setup, but we are able to plant the bust at the informant's house, taking out the rat. Then we launch a multi-pronged political thievery attack where we, the Archmage of Cyrodiil, steal a staff from ourselves, thus angering the influential Mages Guild, currently led by us, forcing Captain Hieronymus Lex, the sworn rival of the Grey Fox, to withdraw his men from the waterfront, lifting the siege. He remains a thorn in the Grey Fox's side, however. This time, we set out to permanently remove him from the equation. The Thieves Guild is definitely where Oblivion showcases the most creativity. Rather than another simple setup or just shanking the guy, we steal a recommendation letter for a promotion in another city, forge the letter to have Hieronymus put at the top, seal it with a stolen official imperial seal, and hand deliver it to a countess to have him transferred away from the imperial city. This has the side benefit of placing a diligent and loyal protector at the Countess of Anvil's side, something that the Grey Fox has taken a personal interest in. Now, we are finally important enough in the guild to meet the Grey Fox himself, although don't dare small talk with him. Rude. Anyway, it seems that the Grey Fox has a massive heist planned. First, we are sent to the very edge of the world map through a handy-capable monastery into winding tunnels of undead healthcare assistants to relieve the pensioners of a stone. A stone that ostensibly allows Mr. Fox to look through the defenses of the Imperial Palace, the most secure place in all of Cyrodiil. Then, we must steal an arrow from a fellow Mages Guild colleague. Once again, we are sent through a dank tunnel full of enemies, and an unfortunate pattern with the last few quests start forming. The Thieves Guild is great, but it isn't perfect, and a large problem with the quest lines is a fact endemic to much of Oblivion: the game is too afraid of punishing the player. Rather than increasing the difficulty of the later thievery quests by larger interconnected areas allowing multiple points or methods of entry discoverable through exploration or other mechanics you could steal from Thief 2, you are simply allowed to kill whoever is in your way in the later quests, abandoning one of the core tenets of the Thieves Guild established at the very beginning. Don't feel like sneaking, just bonk your way through the level, which is both way easier but also way more profitable due to the loot drop. There is no value to pure sneak in the Thieves Guild. You earn so many septims from loot by killing whoever happens to be in your way, it's completely backwards. The Mages Guild had the same problem. It had exactly one quest where actually casting spells was necessary to progress, and even that quest had all the spells you needed in a nearby Deus Ex chest. You could quite easily bonk your way to becoming the Archmage because most quests were just variations of kill fetch quests. No magic necessary. Oblivion is too often too afraid of punishing the player for their choices. It would be fitting for the Mages Guild questline to necessitate progress through your spell school levels. Maybe you need to create a very specific spell to cast. Maybe a boss is completely impervious to anything except magic. Maybe you need to brew various potions to win over the favor of important politicians in the Imperial City. But no. You simply bonk your way through an endless stream of hairline deficient scrubs. The same thing goes for the Thieves Guild. Why take us away from the fun of robbing small business owners? Why constantly put us into the same type of winding damp caves in the Grey Fox quests? Why allow us to kill and make killing more profitable? In fact, the only reason I end up not liquidating Sithis Aren is because it throws me out of the Mages Guild and I still need to craft spells. Then, for the penultimate quest, I must find a pair of 300-year-old limited edition sneakers for the Grey Fox. First, terrorize a cowardly nobleman for the keys to his wine cellar. Then, be met with another unsurprising dank pit of extravagant loot before finding the coffin of the ancient sneakerhead. Here, a diary reveals that not only is the cowardly nobleman the original 300-year-old sneakerhead, but that he personally knew the Grey Fox. Sneak back into his study for an intimate vampiric boss fight for the Jays that I will excuse only for my expectations being so thoroughly subverted. The boots give you a ridiculous acrobatic boost, instantly propelling you into the top 14 of most credible NBA mock drafts, and by sheer force of being this ridiculous, also instantly becomes the only pair of boots you should use the rest of the game. Finally, with all the pieces in place, the Fox reveals his ultimate heist, stealing an Elder Scroll from the Imperial Palace. The Elder Scrolls are the Tamrielic version of the Akashic Records, something that very much exists. Encoded in a non-corporeal form, they can cease to exist from one moment to another, much like your father. Suffice to say that the Elder Scrolls are very powerful. Our heist is for glory, not for the dollar. First, we sneak into the palace basement and activate a massive hourglass to open up an ancient secret sewerway that runs underneath the entire Imperial City into First Era ruins, into a massive chamber with a statue that needs to be shot with an arrow to open a door into the Imperial Palace barracks. What? Take it up with the city planners. Anyway, there is supposedly a puzzle of some sort here, but with the spring heel sneakers you can just jump past it. Equip the arrow you stole earlier, discover that you've forgotten a bow, and either summon one or find a skeleton to confiscate one from and shoot your shot. Here comes the best part of the Thieves Guild. Any mistake, any getting caught, and the quest is over. Forever. Obviously, copious amounts of save scumming neglects this somewhat, but this is what stealth should be about. Sneak through the palace and find the blind priests. They think you're someone else, so remember not to speak and simply sit at the cock chair and have the Grey Fox's prize delivered to you on a plate. Take the scroll and escape to the Imperial Battle Mage's chamber. Jump down his fireplace with the spring heel boots on, breaking the fall and allowing you to survive. Alternatively, as in this is what you should do, avail yourself of the many bottles of Dakimakura Vintage 399, get drunk and jump down the chute barefooted, breaking your fall on the sides and allowing you to keep the spring heels. Return the scroll to the fox and he sends you on his very last errand with a ring in hand. Approach the countess in Anvil, whom you had Hieronymus transferred to. You present his mysterious ring. Shocked, the Countess reveals that the ring belongs to her husband, lost through 10 years, when a nearby stranger, the same stranger who forged Hieronymus' transfer, reveals himself to both be the Grey Fox and her husband. It seems that the fox's cowl is cursed, anyone donning it having their name and face stricken from memory and history. With the Elder Scroll, he undoes the curse and hands you the cowl as the new master of the Thieves Guild. Despite the flaws of the quest lines, the Thieves Guild is truly some of the most creativity Oblivion has to offer, Shivering Isles and Sheogorath aside. The cowl is also a true cost-benefit reward. Amazing stats at the cost of not being able to operate in polite society. A true reward that feels fitting for becoming a guild master, in opposition to what you received as the Archmage, as in nothing. Now is the time for the creme de la creme of Oblivion, the Dark Brotherhood. To join the Dark Brotherhood, you must liquidate an NPC, not fake assassinate like mowing down endless amounts of nondescript conjurers in the Thieves Guild, but actual bounty-inducing federal crime liquidation. Usually I would recommend striping up a beggar in one of the cities. They are often alone, sleeping, and have no immediate family or allies, but since they're kinda under our protection as the de facto Grey Fox, we must look elsewhere for our Nevada desert trip companion. The answer, as with most things in the Elder Scrolls, are the Daedra. Travel to Mephala's shrine, the web spinner and princess of secrets. There you will be given the task to instigate a race war in a small utopic hamlet nearby. Slay the heads of families as they sleep, plant incriminating material on their bodies, and watch the fabric of polite society tear itself to pieces. You are now marked as a potential recruit for the Dark Brotherhood and blessed with a very nice sword courtesy of Mephala. Then, as you take your next rest, Lucien Lachance, speaker of the Dark Brotherhood and the rightful recipient of whatever voice actor salary Patrick Stewart and Sean Bean received, wakes you up.
I am Lucien Lachance, a speaker for the Dark Brotherhood, and you are a killer.
Your initiation lays the foundation for the rest of the guild's questline. Find your target, minimize collateral, and dispose of them before returning to your guild house in Cheydinhall. The Dark Brotherhood succeeds here out of all the other guilds of being an actual brotherhood and feeling like a guild. Ambient conversation reveals the jolly nature of their work, and you can always feel free to discuss matters of contracts with your fellows, all which include their own particular perspective.
So I said to her, "No, I am a messenger of death." You should have seen the look on her face. Anyway, she won't be seeing age 6.
You feel welcome, and with each of the following 8 quests having new specific dialogue with your guildmates and always taking you back to the same guild hall, you finally end up having a home in Oblivion. There's even a grumpy cat who doesn't like the new recruit here.
Foul-smelling ape.
Now, the first few hits are relatively straightforward. A captain in his quarters proves no match for your hops. An old man in Bruma falls victim to shoddy handyman DIY, and you get to revisit where it all began, sneaking through the sewers and delivering some swift justice to a particular dark elf for his microaggressions against you earlier in the game. From here on, the hits take on a slightly more intricate and creative nature. A fellow Breton needs you to do a fake hit, taking him out with a paralyzing agent in front of another hitman to fake his death, with your fake target putting on quite the convincing performance.
Oh no! What am I to do? An underworld enforcer and a Dark Brotherhood assassin, both here to kill poor Francois. Ah! What's this? Oh, Dark Brotherhood assassin, please don't cut me with that wicked blade. It looks like this is the end of poor Francois.
Your next target is an elf with an erratic lifestyle pattern. Here, the close-knit community of the Cheydinhal Guild comes into play. Where do you find elves in the Imperial City? I wonder where. Find the nearest knife ear and have him rat out your target. Dunmer are always preferable given their ill predisposition to Envar. At his hotel, ask politely and you will find your target, but witness and collateral must, as always, be minimized. Making quick friends with your target's paramour, you find the perfect place to wait for the skooma-addicted Schwitz and give him the Duterte treatment. He will not be missed. Finally, we have arrived at the singular best quest in all of Oblivion. A social gathering of 5 guests, not including yourselves, locked in a house together, searching for a chest of gold. Envision a rat race, except inside one house and all the contestants mercifully dying. Learn what makes each person tick, become friendly with them, and liquidate them one by one out of sight of each other. As each guest dies, the others become more and more paranoid, blaming each other, blaming racial aspects, and further confiding in you. Rarely has a game made you feel so sadistic, being the person they confide in, being a shoulder to cry on, but ultimately being their dark demise. There really is no moral ambiguity here. In the Dark Brotherhood, you are unequivocally the bad guy. Your guildmates are bad guys, their proclivities are the aspirations of bad guys, and they even talk like bad guys. In any case, with only 2 other guests left and yourself, chemically their best friend, there is nothing else to do for them but persecute the assumed murderer.
It's finally over. The killer is dead. We just need to get out of here.
Return to the guild hall and receive your reward, as well as an urgent and secret message from Lucien Lachance to meet him in his hideout. Anything to hear his sweet voice again.
He was weak in life, but his spirit is quite angry in death.
If the house secret room quest was the best quest, then this is the most impactful. Insofar you've spoken with your guildmates before every quest, gotten their input, heard their anecdotes, you've come to know them pretty well, your own little close-knit psycho family. This ends tonight. Lucien Lachance invokes the right of purification. There is allegedly a traitor in the Cheydinhal Charter, and rather than interrogations, cross-examinations or surveillance, we go straight to extermination. The members of the Dark Brotherhood love Lucien Lachance. They respect him and strive to earn his love, but he is gleeful in letting you cull them. They have no idea what is coming. You have earned their trust and respect after all.
I know from now on, you and I are going to be great friends. Come on, can't you give your old pal Mirage Star a hint? Who do you have to kill? Anyone I know.
Destroy your newfound family, one
Sithis, save me.
by one by one.
Why, sister? Why? Sithis, save me!
By one. Lucien grants you the rank of Silencer and sends you to the first of many personal dead drop quests. They seem relatively straightforward. A full family, starting with the mother, must be eliminated through different means, most of them magical and confrontational.
Come here then. Show me what you've got. Come on now. There's no... Ha!
While others more conniving.
My mother? No! What have you done to her? I'll kill you! Ah! This is the part where you fall down and bleed to death! Can I help you?
Suddenly, the targets take on a more dangerous nature. The dead drop notes have different handwriting and the targets are all expecting you, one of them even screaming of treachery as you put him down. Completing your 7th dead drop, the 5th with the strange handwriting, Lucian Lachance apprehends you and accuses you of treachery.
No! I'm too late. I thought I could get here in time. Thought I could stop you! My Sithis, what have you done? What madness has claimed you? You have betrayed me. You have betrayed the Dark Brotherhood. Why?
Someone has been exchanging the dead drops with their own, and you have been systematically eliminating the entire Black Hand of the Dark Brotherhood. The surviving members, recognizing that you were only following orders, and probably shaking in their boots of the incredible ease in which you dumpster them one by one, have set out to hunt Lucian, and he sets you on the trail of the fake dead dropper to stop the plot. Antagonizing an errand boy for the traitor, you are led to the most cookie-cutter, stereotypical psycho lair ever devised, complete with a Karl Panzram-esque diary and multiple transcribed schizophrenic breakdowns, as well as a tribute to the movie Friday the 13th Part 2 featuring Dear Sweet Departed Mother's Head. The traitor is in the Dark Brotherhood like you and has toiled for years until making it into the Black Hand, all to get close to the Night Mother and destroy her. Rushing back to the farm where you formerly liquidated a matron of a family, you find you are too late. Lucian Lachance, the single best character of the game, have been strung up and quite literally butchered. The Black Hand, however, welcomes you into their inner circle. Given with the astounding amount of current vacancies, it makes sense. The traitor is there as well. However, you wait until the right moment to strike, but proceed to antagonize him with his own mother's head.
What? What is that? Is that a head? No, it can't be. Sorry, Speaker, I'm distracted.
Traveling to Bravel, the secret lair of the Night Mother is inconspicuously placed in the very center of one of Cyrodiil's largest cities. Following the surviving Black Hand into what is undoubtedly the darkest area in Oblivion, perfectly mirroring the happy-core, lucky lady statue above, resplendent with playing toddlers. In any case, the Night Mother herself negs the surviving members of the Black Hand until Speaker Matthew Bellamont reveals himself as the traitor, immediately shanking 2 of your worthless colleagues and then attempts the stabbing of a ghost. Dispose of him easily and receive your final reward as the listener of the Dark Brotherhood. The Night Mother knew the plot from the very beginning and allowed it to proceed as the guild had become complacent, but is now destined to greatness under your leadership. There are 2 additional vanilla guilds, the Arena, which is pretty fun but a fairly simplistic affair, and the Fighters Guild, which is better than the Mages Guild, and that's about all I have to say to it. Now, it is time to continue the main narrative of Oblivion. After all, we cannot deny destiny. You are to seek out the illegitimate heir of Uriel Septim the 7th, if you have forgotten. Travel to the Waynon Priory and find Joffrey, the Grand Master of the Blades, the organization sworn to protect the Dragonblood Emperor. He tells you of Martin, the last living heir of the assassinated emperor, and sends you to the city of Kvatch to find him before the enemy does. To assist, he promises you what little aid he can provide, except for his garlic.
Thief! You won't get away with this!
However, you are too late. Kvatch has fallen to the Daedra horde. Oblivion gates spewed from the very ground and consumed the city in utter desolation. There are only a few survivors outside the city, and none of them are Martin. And from what you can gather, the situation is truly crazy.
Run when you can!
A single Oblivion gate blocks the entrance to Kvatch, and with only 3 guards left to man the barricades, you alone must brave the plains of Oblivion and find a way to shut the gate down yourself, especially given the relative level of competence from the Imperial Legion.
Why won't you die?
Welcome to the Deadlands, the realm of a maroon Stagon, the sovereign of destruction, and the overarching antagonist. The Deadlands are the very picture of Abrahamic hell, and you will find that both the flora, fauna, and environment will conspire to end you. You, however, blessed with the hops, can simply jump away from most problems and obstacles like a young NBA prospect. In fact, there is almost nothing a high level of acrobatics can't achieve in Oblivion, and even the mightiest of enemies must bend the knee to your superior quadriceps. Taking stock of the scenery, perhaps Lord of the Rings is more of an apt comparison. I did take the opportunity to rip on the relatively uninspired environment at the beginning, especially compared with Morrowind's alien environment or some of Oblivion's contemporaries like Vampire the Masquerade or Arcanum, a game I have never played but watched every single video in existence of. There is something to be said for the high fantasy setting, and that something is probably in a made-up, vaguely Finnish-sounding language. The stark contrast of the luscious greenery pillowing the rolling hills, deep forests and spring blue sky with the blackened ruby ember firmament is as effective a visual tool for Oblivion as it was for Lord of the Rings. And that massive copyright infringement tower is your target. You must reach the top, slaying the Daedric hordes until reaching the Sigillium Sanguine, where a sigil stone powers the connection between the dimension of Oblivion and your home world, allowing the Daedra to pour through now that the dragonfires have gone dormant. Although you technically don't have to kill any of the Daedra if you are a conscientious objector. With only a few tricks the doctors don't want you to know about, you can simply hurry to the top and claim your prize. That being said, if you are insolvent, it would be best to go old school for the potential gear upgrades and merchant trips. In either case, you close the Oblivion Gate and have now learned how to close future Oblivion Gates and extricate Martin from Kvatch. But the enemy reaches the Priory before you. The Amulet of Kings, crucial to relighting the Dragonfires, have been swiped, and Joffrey takes Martin to Cloud Ruler Temple to keep him safe while you hunt down the amulet. The amulet has been taken by Mankar Cameron, the leader of the cult responsible for assassinating the Emperor, establishing the Oblivion Gates, and stealing the amulet. They worship Mehrunes Dagon and preach the gospel of his manifest destiny.
When I walk the earth again, the faithful among you shall receive your reward, to be set above all other mortals forever.
An old wizard spearheading the invasion of an apocalyptic threat by a malevolent dark lord? Wherever did they get that idea from? Mankar does escape the plagiarization allegations by escaping through a portal to a paradise of his own making with the Amulet of Kings, rather than getting stuck on top of a tower until the epilogue. And it looks like you must return to Martin almost empty-handed. However, after a pitched fight against the remaining cultists, you nab the Mysterium Saxes, a manifesto reportedly penned by none other than Mehrunes Dagon himself. Martin is triggered by its presence, but after running it through Deep L, knows he will be able to open a portal to Mankar's paradise after a tiny bit of grave robbing and a battle plan straight out of Aragorn's playbook, where he finally flaunts himself as the true Emperor of Tamriel. This draws out the legions of Oblivion in a pitched battle where Martin and his soldiers hold the line against Discount Grant itself, while you find a great sigil stone, the last ingredient needed to face Mankar Cameron. The path is set. No man or woman born, coward or brave, can shun his destiny. The battle, unfortunately, leaves most soldiers slain and our main guy Joffrey dead. Not scripted, mind you. His part in our journey as an essential and therefore immortal by God design NPC simply came to an end, and as has become abundantly clear, fate has much in store for Martin Septim and yourself, but for others, they shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Martin is stepping more and more into his role as destined by his bloodline, as was all preordained from the very beginning.
But what path can be avoided whose end is fixed by the almighty gods?
Much like Aragorn, from the movies specifically, Martin is a reluctant heir, a bedraggled northern ranger, heir of Elendil, and a humble priest, heir of Tiber Septim, each on a collision course with a destiny in defense of man and mare against a dark lord. Humility, humanity, heroism. It is a shame that Oblivion is so thinly spread out. Martin Septim, given more screen time, more opportunities to manifest agency himself, and even more time to explore the reluctance of accepting the mantle of fate from a father who effectively abandoned him, could have been an amazing character for Oblivion to revolve around. Fate plays such an integral role in Oblivion, in fact in Elder Scrolls at large, but usually fate revolves almost solely around the player. We saw it in the guilds in Oblivion as well. Hannibal Traven sacrifices himself for your shot at Manimarco, most likely realizing your preordained destiny of greatness. The collective generational curse of the Grey Cowl is a destiny of its own, forced upon its wearer, broken by your greater mantle of providence. The Night Mother herself explicitly states it too.
You were marked by Sithis the moment you emerged from your mother's womb.
Marked by the Dread Father, marked by Akatosh, soon marked by a stranger cat. Martin Septim, given more time to develop, could have been an amazing opportunity to witness, parallel to our own journey, another character coming to grips with his role in the cosmic wheel. Literally another character developing from zero to hero. But Oblivion is spread thin.
Wait a minute, let me do that one again.
And maybe Sean Bean was too expensive. Should have just made Wes Johnson the only voice actor.
Stop right there, criminal scum!
In any case, with all the ingredients in place, you enter Mankar's paradise and must suffer the most verbose yapper of all time.
So, the cat's paw of the Septims arrives at last. Behold the savage garden, where my disciples are tempered for a higher destiny, to rule over Tamriel Reborn. The principalities have sparkled as gems in the black reaches of Oblivion since the first morning. The gods you worship are trifling shadows of first causes. You are the last defender of decadent Tamriel. I am the midwife of the mythic dawn, Tamriel Reborn.
Sure, glass houses and all that, but even after finding him in his sanctum for the de facto final disappointing boss fight, he just can't help himself going on.
You were the last gasp of a dying age.
And on.
The walls between our worlds are crumbling. The mythic dawn grows nearer with every rift in the firmament.
And on and on. Dispose of his geriatric ass quick and return the amulet to Martin, who finally is ready to inherit his birthright. The amulet, allegedly wearable only by those of dragon blood, although Mankar proudly wore it, would reject Martin if he was not destined to ascend the throne.
And no man can deny his destiny. Let's go to the Imperial City at once, before the enemy can recover from Manka Cameron's death.
The culmination of his destiny lies in the capital, now under attack by Maroon Stagon, the sovereign of standing very, very still while you run around him. Martin understands his destiny now, everything having led up to this. Smashing the amulet, turning into the avatar of Akatosh, the OG dragon, and disposing of Maroon Stagon, saving Tamriel from the Prince of Destruction, but losing his own life in the process. His destiny fulfilled. Although, we could just have used Sheogorav's Wabberjack instead. So where does that leave us? Outside of losing access to the best crafting materials in the game and receiving a fairly mediocre set of armor, we are left to wander Cyrodiil with a somewhat bittersweet emptiness inside of us. On a meta level, you could blame the lack of depth present in most Bethesda games. There is a certain finality of never seeing Oblivion Gates or Mythic Dawn Assassins again if you decide to play on, but the threat level never really felt that desperate. Occasionally, 2 NPCs would assault you while shopping and immediately get smacked down, and seeing an Oblivion Gate was never a negative. Just jump your way through Barad-dûr, collect the insane loot at the top and call it a day. In Dragon Age Origins, the threat of the Blight is very clearly visualized on your world map. Areas you formerly visited become unavailable as you progress, swallowed by the Darkspawn horde constantly breathing down your neck as the apocalyptic, overarching enemy inches on and on. It feels like something is missing. A build-up to the showdown with Maroon Stagon, or maybe an epilogue in veneration of the Akatosh avatar statue. But there is something almost something fitting in the lack of fanfare for ourselves. Life in Cyrodiil moves on. No one else privy to your trials and tribulations. Maybe those touched by destiny, hardened by the hero's journey, are never to find peace, never to rest on their laurels. They went in, and Sam shut the door. But even as he did so, he heard suddenly, deep and unstilled, the sigh and murmur of the sea upon the shores of Middle-earth. Our destiny is complete. Our page in the cosmic insanity that is Elder Scrolls lore has been written. Call it incidental poignancy, but Oblivion captures it well enough. Uriel Septim's words, some of the very first words spoken to you in the game, came true.
But what path can be avoided whose end is fixed by the almighty gods?
People will buy anything.
Alright, that was a video. Like, subscribe, comment down below what was your favorite part of Oblivion. Support links down in the description, Patreon and all that good jazz. Now, I just quickly want to talk a little bit more about the behind the scenes of the similarities between Oblivion and Lord of the Rings movies specifically, and the jabs I took at the setting at large in the beginning. Mind you, I am as big a Lord of the Rings fan as most average nerds out there, and you have to recognize that most fantasy media is going to have taken a massive chunk out of the Tolkien lore. There is going to be a fair few location names and such. I'll try to look up the pronunciations and get them right, but I might mess up, which, hey, certain lore terms are pronounced differently across even the same game. Daedra, Daedric, and Daedra, Daedric in Oblivion I came across a few different times, so just imagine I was hatched in the Black Marshes or something. First of all, Cyrodiil was described initially in a game manual called The Pocket Guide to the Empire, 1st edition Cyrodiil, from a game called Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, which I unfortunately, or fortunately maybe, have never played. The Pocket Guide was written by one Michael Kirkbride, Bethesda game designer and writer of lore for primarily Redguard and Morrowind, and was also a smaller part of the Oblivion writing team as a contractor. Jot down his name in your mind's eye, he is a central part of this. Here are a few snippets from the Pocket Guide intro with accompanying B-roll of the actual Cyrodiil from Oblivion the game. It is the largest region of the continent and most is endless jungle. Its center, the grasslands of the Nibelheim Valley, is enclosed by an equatorial rainforest and broken up by rivers. As one travels south along these rivers, the more subtropical it becomes, until finally the land gives way to the swamps of Agonia and the placid waters of the Tobal Bay. Between its western coast and its central valley, there are all manner of deciduous forest and mangroves, becoming sparser towards the ocean. There are a few major roads to the west, river paths to the north, and even a canopy tunnel to the Velothi Mountains, but most of Cyrodiil is a river-based society surrounded by jungle. The Pocket Guide contains much more lore regarding the nascent beginnings of the Cyrodiilic Empire and goes more in depth with the various cities such as Anvil, but clearly this is not what we got. The Cyrodiil we got is mostly European grasslands and hills. Granted, I've only ever been in Washington DC, so maybe I'm being highly Euro-chauvinistic and erasing some beautiful grassy knolls of Connecticut or Idaho, but I think of the German Schwarzwald when I see the firs and spruces along the mountain ranges and the running water. The density is not quite there, but engine limitations is a point I'm making sure to pin for later. Suffice to say, there is very little jungle rainforest present, and quite a bit of Italy instead. There are some swamplands, some mangroves towards the Black Marshes, or Agonia as the Pocket Guide calls it, and man, do I petition my Todd Shrine nightly to place a game anywhere else but High Rock. And I've been playing Breton since my tiny embryonic brain understood what magic resistance was. The plot, according to Michael Kirkbride, would also have been quite different. Specifically, the Elder Council, which plays a marginal role in the actual game, featured basically as the world's saddest birthday party, would have had a much more central role. The question of ascending the throne, not just a matter of discount movie Aragorn-ish reluctance, but a question of both succession, Daedric doppelgangers, possible military junta gambits. Here is a quote from Michael Kirkbride on the Teslaw subreddit. Just FYI, I used and use both the Teslaw subreddit as well as the UESP wiki quite a lot, although admittedly I probably use the True STL or Trustle subreddit and fandom page much more. In my romantic notion of how things might have been, I really think Oblivion was poorer for not including the Elder Council stuff, the really elaborate Kingmaker role the player would have taken on, and a horror vibe to what happened to Septim's heirs, which we had set up way back in Morrowind. The thread also contains a few examples of Morrowind dialogue setting this up. I must admit I don't remember seeing this dialogue at all, as well as a follow-up from Michael Kirkbride. So, evidence, if you'd call it that, of Oblivion being set up as something very different from the Lord of the Rings tribute we got. Here is the most central Kirkbride comment, also on the Teslaw subreddit. Cyrodiil was going to be as described in the first PGE, which the book you are talking about took its quotes from. The heart of the province being what you think of when you think of a traditional jungle, tumbling down to the fields of large rice paddies that fed the empire, guarded by Romanesque troops and dragons everywhere. The imperial city was to be vast, rolling across wetlands and swamps, with large sections lost and overgrown, full of too many cults to count, the oldest temples having obviously been around since the Merethic. Then, Todd watched The Fellowship of the Ring, and mistakes were made. First of all, with all respect to a writer of Morrowind, a bit of a catty comment there at the end. Obviously, big resemblance to Lord of the Rings, which, yeah, most fantasy media is going to resemble Lord of the Rings, and we are all just playing in Tolkien's garden most of the time. But this is not just visual, it's Martin Septim being somewhat of an amalgamation between Aragorn and Frodo. It's the all-powerful artifact having a central theme, the strange fate that we should suffer so much fear and doubt over such a small thing, and so on. The stark difference in alien narrative between Dagoth-Ur and the Dwemer and Vivek and the Tribunal versus the relatively straightforward high fantasy main plot we got in Oblivion is quite the whiplash. And I happen to enjoy high fantasy a lot, but Fallout and especially Elder Scrolls has such a wealth of weird esoteric lore to draw from that going straight apocalypse or straight fantasy seems like such a misstep. I know, very cold take for sure. I'm not the only one asking if this is how Todd Howard honors the 6th house and the tribe unmourned. We pinned it earlier, but engine limitation must be taken into consideration. This is a 2006 game. It could never have looked as impressive as described. I obviously would wish for more meat on the main quest, but taking into account all the guild quest lines and random side quests, I can see why there just wasn't time for that. Now, for the different cultures inhabiting Cyrodiil and the Imperial City, the feel, the vibes, I don't believe that you needed that much more hardware. Bethesda wanted a generic fantasy setting in Europe, and that's what we got. Jade Empire is from 2005, Morrowind is from 2002, Planescape Torment is from 1999. I know, it's 2D, 2.5D, I get it, but you don't need a photorealistic depiction of a rainforest to transport you into what Cyrodiil potentially could have been. Shivering Isles came out a year after Oblivion, and look how much they made that same engine work for that setting. Most gamers, capital G, are quite happy suspending their disbelief, quite happy having their fantasy take over and fill in the gaps, as long as we are led down that path. I don't jump around Bravil, going to my favorite establishment, with the understanding that one of the 9 major imperial cities has a total of 20 some odd citizens and is the size of a civil parish market town near Stoke-on-Trent. We all fully understand the limitation, even for modern games, but the choice was made for every city in Cyrodiil to be relatively relatively homogeneous, to be generic fantasy inspired, to have the same generic fantasy color palette. I can absolutely see how the deserved fanfare of Lord of the Rings spawned the Oblivion we have today. Mind you, I'm a big Oblivion fan, but it is a shame that we seemingly move further and further away from the weirdness of Elder Scrolls, away from Morrowind and Shivering Isles, and into more diffuse, shallow, vanilla Skyrim. Once again, a DLC clears the entirety of the vanilla game. Alright, that's quite enough yapping for now. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you very much. Like, subscribe, comment down below which direction would you like to see Elder Scrolls be taken in. Support links in the description. Thank you very much and see you next time.